Hello, my friends. This is episode number 61 of the Spaniard School Student Podcast. I'm your host, Charlie the Spaniard Brennan, former Spanish teacher and UFC fighter, and I travel the country speaking to students. I write books for students, and of course, I have this podcast and YouTube channel for students as well. And my goal here is to share my experiences as a professional fighter, share those lessons, those stories, so you can apply those lessons and stories to your own life. And today's episode is all about controlling the controllables. I think I was probably, from my memory, I was probably 10 years old when I remember hearing this for the first time. And I believe it came, this is how my memory works. It came from my dad. It had to do with wrestling because I was worrying and I was very nervous about my opponents who I was wrestling. And my dad said, look, control the controllables. And what that means is in life, there are going to be some things that you can control and some things that you can't control. And the art, the trick, the secret is to focus on controlling the things that you can control, the controllables. And this episode is inspired by some of my recent experiences. As I said, I travel around the country and I speak to students sharing my story and the lessons in my story. And I've had two trips in the last 2 months that I've had to postpone and reschedule. And it was because of things that were out of my control. Title of this episode is Control the Controllables. The first one was that my grandfather passed away, and the funeral was on the day that I was supposed to present in Utah. And the other one was postponed because of travel. My flight was delayed so much that I could not arrive in time to do the assembly program. I think you can probably relate to experiences in your life that felt out of your control. Maybe it was someone canceling plans. Maybe it was your parents making you do something. Maybe it was something breaking and it no longer worked and you needed it to work. I have my phone here in my pocket. Maybe it was your phone wouldn't work or your computer wouldn't turn on. Like all of these things where we just can't control the situation and we feel like we want to explode or yell or scream or break stuff. And I think a huge part of life, a huge skill in life is learning to deal with those situations, those non-controllables, and to handle them with grace and with ease and with patience and with calmness. That there is the secret to peace and happiness. And that's why I'm talking about this topic today. So first question that you might ask yourself is, and if you actually want to do this, if you're listening in class or you're listening, with your parent or coach, or you want to do it yourself, make a list of the things in life that you can control over here and a list of the things in your life that you cannot control. And maybe let's start with a topic or a subject, school, right? What are some things you can control about school? What are some things you cannot control about school? Let's think about friends or relationships. What are some things you can control? What are some things you can't control? That'll help develop and start to give you an idea of, all right, what's the difference between something I can control and something that I can't control? Because unfortunately, a big part of life pertains to things that we cannot control. In my assembly program, on this podcast and on my other podcast, I talk about my oldest brother, Scott, who was diagnosed with a terminal brain tumor, right? He has brain cancer. That's a non-controllable. But what he can control is how he lives his life day in and day out. And that's an inspiration to me, my family, his friends, everyone who knows my brother. That's a choice that he makes. And that's an example of a controllable, how he can act now that he's been diagnosed with an uncontrollable, the brain tumor. And so you're making a list of the controllables, the non-controllables. You're at least thinking about, hey, what are some things I can control? What are some things I can't control? And then ask yourself, and this is what I found myself, when you're sitting in the plane for over an hour waiting for it to take off because it's delayed, it starts to get frustrating. And I start to feel like I want to just go or let me off the plane, but I can't. It would do no good. Ask yourself when you're in these situations, when you're in these challenging situations dealing with non-controllables, like what actions or behaviors provide the best outcome? And I know this is not always the first thing you're going to think about, but ask yourself, all right, if I scream and yell right now, what's going to happen? If I breathe calmly and get out a book, if I breathe calmly and scroll on my phone, if I shut my eyes and take a nap, or what if I what if I punch the wall? Like, I think it's pretty easy to see the actions and behaviors on your part, on my part, that lead to a more positive outcome. Something I say to my kids all the time, maybe last week or 2 weeks ago on here, I recorded, it was episode number 59. It says your choices have consequences. I explain to my kids all the time who are 9 and 6, and I also say this in my assembly programs, like, you can act how you want to act, or you can make a choice, but there's a consequence. And depending on that choice determines whether that consequence is positive or negative. You can ask yourself the same question. When you're in a situation where you feel like you want to break something, you want to yell, you want to scream, you want to hit something, whatever it is. I mean, it's a simple question. What actions are going to lead to a better outcome? If I do X, will my life be better or will my life be worse? Will this situation be better or will this situation be worse? Even though you and I are different, even though you're different from your friends, there are things that we can agree on that make us happy, right? Peace, calm, friendship, support, nice weather, like not being in trouble, not being yelled at, not yelling at people. Generally, when you are yelling and screaming and hitting stuff and throwing a tantrum and breaking stuff, that's not a sign of inner peace and happiness. So I want to help you get to a point, and trust me, I'm practicing this as much as I want you to practice it. I want to help you get to a point where you're dealt a non-controllable in life. You choose an action or behavior that makes the most or the best out of that situation, and it makes your life as good, as better, as happy as it possibly can in that moment and into the future. That's where I want to help you get to. And there's 3 things. I've heard this a variety of ways, a couple different ways, starting with 3 things that you can control. In the first book, I read it in a book a long time ago, and she presented it as the word ape, right? As the controllables. What can you control? Ape, your attitude, your preparation, and your effort. Your attitude. Now, I'm going to add a little like extra to this one. Sometimes it is hard to control your attitude. Look, I've been in like pouty, salty, bad moods where if I say, okay, Charlie, control your attitude. If I'm being honest, in that moment, I can't necessarily control my attitude. I can't just snap my fingers and get out of it. But you can choose on a bigger level to maintain a positive attitude in life, right? You may have some ups and downs along the way, but your attitude, right? Your attitude to a degree is controllable. Your preparation, this is hands down controllable. Even if your attitude is off, even if you wake up grumpy on the wrong side of bed and whatever, you can still choose to do the work. You can still choose to prepare. Whether you're sad, mad, angry, if you can't control your emotions, you can control your actions regardless. I can be pouty, but I can say, okay, pouty Charlie, get up and study. Okay. Like you can still, your actions can take over your emotions if your emotions are negative. You can do that. That is controllable. You can control your preparation / your work. And then the last one is your effort. This is a great one too. So many times when our attitude is bad or we have negative emotions, we just want to give up and we want to quit. We don't want to try. You see it on the playground with little kids. If they can't win, then they don't even want to try, right? If I can't win, then I'm not even going to try. That's not giving your best effort. Look, every one of us has different skills, different abilities, different potential levels of success, or we're not all the same, but we all have the ability to give our best effort. We all have our ability to try our best. And if you're thinking in terms of the future, what people look for, if you want to excel in your work, if you want to excel on a team, if you want to excel in your family, people love people who give their best effort. Right? I say it to my wrestlers all the time. I coach high school wrestling. It's not about winning and losing. It's about giving your best effort. I will take a mediocre wrestler who tries their best every single day than a champion wrestler who's a jerk and doesn't try. Take that. That's the truth. That's what I want as a person. That's what the world rewards. The world rewards effort. So your attitude, your preparation, and your effort, those are 3 things you can start controlling today. So as a kind of close to this episode, remember, identify the things in your life you can control, identify the things in your life you cannot control, and focus on the things you can control. That's it for today. Episode number 61, Controlling the Controllables. This is Spaniard School, the student podcast. If you're following on YouTube, youtube.com/Charlie Spaniard, I appreciate you being here. We create every week one of these episodes, videos, 10 to 15 minutes, as well as 4 shorts per episode. So keep your eye out, subscribe, youtube.com/Charlie Spaniard. If you want to listen on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or whatever podcast app you use, search out Spaniard School. It'll pop up. Click subscribe. If you haven't yet left a review, please consider doing so and get your hands on one of these puppies. Go figure. Book number 1 in the Days of Spaniard series. It is available on Amazon as well as my website, charliespaniard.com. If you're interested in booking an assembly or purchasing books in bulk, please go to charliespaniard.com, click on speaking, fill out the form, and I'll get back to you. See you.